Ah yes, finally Christmas is right around the corner, and what better way to celebrate a day of love, family, gift giving, and overall happiness than by reviewing a game with a ton of negative attention. Today I'm going to make myself depressed by reviewing Rogue Warrior. Now, for those of you who may not know, Rogue Warrior was universally panned across the board by critics as well as the general public. Hell, this game was listed as one of the worst games of 2009, as well as being a very frequent game that pops up on most people's worst games of all time lists. For example, the top10s.com has it listed as number 5 out of 10, although they have Star Wars Battlefront 2015 as number 7. Hey, I didn't like the game either. It has a lot of faults, but fucking come on. Seriously, number 7 of a top 10 worst shooters list? Anyway, another site called Sportskeeda.com has it listed as number 1, while TheGamer.com has a top 25 worst Xbox 360 games with Rogue Warrior taking the number 4 spot. The game is frequent on YouTube top 10 videos as well. The point of this review isn't to state the obvious. I mean, most of us know that Rogue Warrior is a terrible game that apparently no one likes. The goal here is to find out if Rogue Warrior is really as bad as everyone seems to think. Considering I've played a ton of incredibly bad games over the years, it's honestly really hard for me to imagine that Rogue Warrior could possibly be the worst yet. Right away, Rogue Warrior had problems even before the game came out. It was first announced in 2006 and had a set release of 2007. It was meant to be developed by Zombie Studios. But I guess Bethesda, who is the publisher for Rogue Warrior, didn't like how Zombie was making the game. So they delayed the release, scrapped Zombie's work, and went with a different developer by the name of Rebellion Developments. With all the delays, the game finally ended up on retail shelves December 1st, 2009 in North America, smack dab right in the middle of the Christmas shopping season. I'll very briefly go over the story for this game. The year is 1986, and you, as well as 2 other Navy SEALs, are sent on a classified mission to Korea to retrieve some intel on ballistic missiles that North Korea owns. Right away, things take a turn for the worst when both your teammates die from a grenade. Your commander tells you to turn back and abort the mission, but of course, being the badass that he is, Richard Marcinko, who is the Navy SEAL you play as, tells the commander he's going forward with the mission anyway. Blah, 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 shit happens, and then later on in the game you find out that North Korea moves some other missiles to the Soviet Union. Marcinko tells the commander that he wants to go after the missiles, but the commander orders him not to in fear that going into the Soviet Union will cause a war to begin. The commander even warns Marcinko that he'll be court-martialed. But of course, Marcinko doesn't give a shit and pursues after the missiles anyway. That's all there is to say about it. I didn't like the story at all. It reminded me of a bad, cheesy action movie from the 80s, almost like a really shit version of Rambo. The campaign can be very easily beaten in just under 2 hours. I completed it in roughly 1 hour 30, and I wasn't rushing at all. And there is very little reason to replay this game. The replay value is basically non-existent. And if you're thinking, well, I could just play the multiplayer and get my replay value out of that, no, you're wrong. No one plays it. Even the top player on the PS3 barely touched it.
Son of a bitch.
Say again, Marcinko?
Bad fucking juju, Admiral. The missile program isn't Korean. It's fucking Soviet.
Jesus Christ. They kept it in their neighbor's yard to keep it off our radar.
Looks like it. Hold on. I got company.
Obey!
I've got the destination point for the missiles. I'm going after them.
Negative. They get wind of you, and the Cold War gets a lot hotter.
I'm feeling the heat already.
I mean it, Dick. No bullshit. You wrap this thing now, or I will nail your ass to the wall for insubordination.
Say it again, boss. You're breaking up.
The graphics are not terrible by themselves. It really doesn't look all that bad for 2009 in my opinion. Maybe a few nasty textures here and there and some other minor things. However, There are specific things about the graphics that look pretty shit. For example, Marcinko only has one facial expression throughout the entire game. During the cutscenes, during the gameplay, it doesn't matter, his expression never changes once. Another wonderful graphical flaw is the nasty frame rate lag that happens whenever there's a lot of enemies on screen shooting at you, and or when there's explosions going off. Outside of that, the game looks fine. I don't agree with other reviews claiming that it looks like a PS2 game or an Xbox game. It really doesn't. Stop over-exaggerating. Let's talk about the game's sound. Okay, well, you can't talk about Rogue Warrior without discussing the dialogue. I'm not joking around here. I've never played a game or watched a movie that has had more swearing than in Rogue Warrior. Like, people sit there and bitch on my videos because I said fuck or shit 2 or 3 times in the span of a 15-minute video. Those people would have a stroke if they ever played this game. Seriously, just about every single sentence in the game has at least some sort of swearing involved. There are even times where Marcinko says 2 or 3 of them in one sentence. Here's just a little sample of the dialogue of Rogue Warrior. I should add that Marcinko is voiced by Mickey Rourke, who is actually a pretty damn good actor. Anyway, take a listen.
Commander, this is Peyton. What's your status?
It's a total goat fuck. Goddamn KPA were waiting for us. Rock and roll, motherfuckers, rock and roll. Drop dead, motherfucker, you fucking amateurs.
Report, Marcinko. What are you seeing out there?
It's a goat fuck, Admiral. Your intel was bullshit. Missiles are going by land, not sea. These motherfuckers are loading them on a train.
Christ. Can you intercept in time?
If you stop yapping... Suck my balls, my hairy fucking big balls. Wrap them around your fucking mouth. Goddamn talk breath, Tommy, motherfuckers!
Okay, I will admit I did laugh a few times listening to these, but come on, it's just too much. I like to swear as much as the next guy, you know, it's a nice little sentence enhancer that you can sprinkle around here and there, but this is just stupid. The music in the game, as well as the sound effects, are simply put okay. There's nothing worth pointing out about them, so we're just gonna move on. The controls of Rogue Warrior were pretty standard for the time, sort of mimicking the control scheme of something like Call of Duty, for example. There's nothing inherently wrong with the controls, everything works as it should, and it's responsive. The only problem I have is that the aiming mechanics are very noticeably clunky. I would say that if you're used to playing first-person shooters with smooth mechanics, Rogue Warrior will just take a little time to get used to, but it's not unbearable by any means. The main problem with Rogue Warrior's gameplay, in my opinion, is that there's nothing to it. It's boring. The gameplay barely reaches the bare minimum requirements of what any first-person shooter should include. All of the levels play out the same. You end up going from checkpoint to checkpoint, killing enemies along the way, and maybe setting off a few explosives here and there. There's no times where you have to defend an objective, save a hostage, escort a friendly, or anything even remotely interesting. Also, another major complaint I have is the level design. It's equivalent to pretty much every other generic first-person shooter out there, except for one thing. In Rogue Warrior, you are allowed to shoot out the lights to make the rooms darker. Now, I would have loved this if stealth played a more important role in this game. When I first started playing this, I kinda got an impression that, okay, this is gonna be more of a stealth-based shooter, which would have made the game far more interesting. But no. There's no reason to play this game stealthy. You can rush through every single level with a loud-ass assault rifle or whatever, guns blazing, and just be perfectly fine. Yeah, they give you the choice of being stealthy, but what's the point? It doesn't change anything. Maybe if they made it so that ammo was hard to come by, okay, that would be one thing, but there was never a point where I didn't have a ton of ammo. So again, There's no legitimate reason to play stealthy in this game. Oddly, they decided to include a cover system for the game, which is kinda interesting because cover systems in first-person shooters are pretty rare to come by. That being said, there's nothing special about it. When you go into cover, you're in third person, and you can either blind fire or peek your body out to get a more accurate shot, and that's it. You can't roll into another piece of cover or rush from cover to cover automatically like in some other games. Not that this is a complaint by any means. A lot of games have simple cover systems like this, but I don't know. I guess I just find it strange that a game like Rogue Warrior even has a cover system at all. When you get up close to an enemy, you can perform what is called a kill move. I'll just call them executions because seriously, look at how brutal this shit is. Honestly, I did enjoy them. I know some people complained about them being too over the top, but come on, this Marcinko guy is meant to be like the ultimate badass, so over the top executions kinda make sense for the character Marcinko is supposed to be. Although, there does seem to be a pretty nasty exploit with these executions. Say that there is a group of guys, and you rush and execute one of them. As far as I can tell, you don't take any damage while you're performing an execution. So essentially you could just rush from guy to guy and execute them all, while taking some damage in between. It's so bad that I was able to complete the first and second missions only using grenades and performing these kill moves, and I didn't die once. Considering this is a one-man army type shooter, I can't talk about allied AI. However, the enemy AI is, well, strange. Sometimes they'll be in front of you, spraying their guns wildly, maybe getting off 1 or 2 hits, and then there'll be times where you're halfway across a hallway or a field, and you're getting hit left and right, sometimes even getting killed by what has seemed like only a couple shots. It's like the enemy AI is terrible, except when it isn't? I don't know how else to describe it. Now, while I'm on the same sort of subject, I remember people complaining about the hit detection being bad or terrible, whatever. Honestly, it's not that bad at all. I had no problems with it whatsoever. I think people are mistaking the gun's accuracy for bad hit detection. When you go full auto in this game, the bullets tend to spread around whatever it is you're aiming at. However, when you take controlled bursts, you'll hit your target just about every single time if you're a good shot. You can visibly see your bullets spread like crazy if you go full auto, so I'm not sure where the complaints are coming from. Maybe this is different on the 360 and PC versions of the game. I have no idea, and I don't want to find out.
Oh, fuck.
There's not much to say about the guns, really. There's not a whole lot of them, but on the bright side, they do differ from each other. Like, I can't say that the MP5 and Kaparis feel like the same exact gun, and same goes with the AK-47 and the AR-4. That's about all I can say about Rogue Warrior's gameplay, so now, of course, that leads us to my final thoughts. Would I call Rogue Warrior the worst first-person shooter, at least on this generation of systems? No. No way in hell. Yeah, the game is terrible, maybe even ranking in at number 10 on my personal top 10 worst FPS games for this generation. However, this doesn't even come as close to being as bad as some of the other trash I've played over the years. Here's the thing, whether you like Rogue Warrior or not, it is playable. There's nothing broken with the mechanics, nor is there anything technically game-breaking about the gameplay, except for the execution move thing. That being said, Rogue Warrior's problem is that there's nothing good about it whatsoever, and that it's boring as hell. Rogue Warrior was so poorly developed in just about every aspect of the game. considering the massive amounts of shooters for the PS3 and Xbox 360, there's no reason to play Rogue Warrior versus almost anything else. Some people will argue that, well, Rogue Warrior is a so bad that it's funny game, or it's so bad that it's good. Kinda sorta. Yeah, the dialogue is pretty hilarious at times, and yeah, there are some facial animations that are very comical, but that's it. So that's Rogue Warrior, everyone. A truly terrible game for sure, but not nearly as bad as other reviews seem to think. Although, of course, this is just my opinion on the matter. Thank you all very much for watching. You can check out my Patreon page in the description below. And of course, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Take care.